Like every part of that story is a lie. He just hallucinated an entirely alternative reality. Like everything he's saying is wrong. And there isn't even enough like footage to prove this. And yet Donald Trump still acts as though that was the case. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? What do you do with that? What do you do with that when the president is just lying and no one is going, I don't think that's what happened.
All right, as we promised, President Trump is there in the Oval Office right now commemorating the anniversary of the Social Security Act. That is what he's talking about right now. Let's go ahead and listen in and see if he talks about what's happening tomorrow with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I said, this guy's amazing. And he said, I'd love to help you with Social Security because it's sort of what he does. You know, he takes troubled entities and turns them around. And he did some of the biggest messes in the world, and Social Security in a certain way, I guess, you know, you reported it all the time. In 4 or 5 years, it's going to go bust, but not anymore, it's not. And he's got it turned around so well. The proclamation helps. All of the things we've done help. And he's finding such tremendous fraud where we have illegal aliens. We have people that don't even exist on Social Security now. They don't exist. And what it does, it makes it totally secure and powerful for the people that are on it and need it. And we're very proud of the job he's done, one of the best.
Kara Castro from Lendell TV. How are you today, sir? Democrats like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren continue to peddle the lie and the claim that you're trying to cut Social Security, despite your repeated promises to protect it. Why do you think they keep pushing this misinformation and literally terrorize?
Awesome. This is not a press conference. You are not a reporter. What are you saying? God, this country sucks so much ass, bro. God damn.
The elderly in America that sadly keep watching the very misleading mainstream media.
I love your question. I should have called you almost first, but I love his questions also, always. But it's such a good question. It's so vicious what they do. Elizabeth Warren said she was an Indian. We call her Pocahontas. She's a liar. She lied her whole career. Based on the fact that she was an Indian, she was able to get into certain colleges, get certain jobs, get into certain universities to work there. She's a liar and a mean person. She's a nut job. I watched her the other night. She's all hopped up endorsing a communist in New York City. And she was all excited and jumping up and down. She's got to take a drug test. She really does. She's got to take a drug test. There's no way somebody can act that way and be normal. What she's done to our financial institutions, she destroys people. Do you know that you had a lot of great banks in the Midwest and banks that loaned to farmers and others, and they went out of business? She put them out of business. Stone cold mean. Banks that were open 150 years, family banks that supplied the farmers and manufacturers and others, and she put them out of business. She's a mean, horrible human being. Bernie Sanders is Bernie Sanders. I don't mind him so much. He's just a liberal guy, very liberal guy. He's a wacky guy. He's still sharp. I got to tell you, you know, he's 86 or 87 or something. He's still sharp. You compare that to Joe Biden, it's, you know, sort of what happened. So I don't mind Bernie Sanders. With him, you know what you're getting. You're getting a guy, he's a nasty guy.
It's awesome. No answer whatsoever to cutting Medicaid. Like he's not even saying we're not cutting Medicaid. He's not even lying and saying we're not cutting Medicaid, even though they are. He's just going on a rant about how much Elizabeth Warren said she was an Indian. Big liar, closed all the best banks, all the family banks. She's so mean to the banks.
But he's somebody that, I don't know if I call it a fastball, but he's able to throw the ball pretty well. He's okay. I watched him the other day. He was totally on the opposite side of things. I will say this, the biggest issue right now, and an issue that's really taken hold, is crime, stopping crime in the cities, and the Democrats are fighting the stopping of crime. So I think that's like men playing in women's sports is okay, or transgender for everybody, okay. But this is a bigger issue. This is the biggest of all issues. Crime.
It's so obvious that in his brain there are literal like talking bubbles that he's pressing over and over again. Just like men playing in women's sports, crime is at an all-time high. It's so clear that he's just like trying to reroute the conversation by bringing up shit that his dumbass base actually loves. Being like, remember when I did the transgender thing?
Crime is rampant in D.C. It's rampant in our generally blue-run cities. And they've got to do something about it, or they're never going to win another election. And instead of calling me a
Why
dictator,
do you care?
they like to say
You don't want
Trump's
them to
a
win
dictator.
elections. Why do you
Trump's a
give a
dictator.
shit?
Well, I had calls from many, many friends, including Democrats. I have a lot of Democrat friends, but they're normal people. And they were thanking me so much for what I'm doing in D.C. They feel so safe already. And you know, at the border, we had 0 people come in. And this is done by a liberal group. They're the people that do it. I have nothing to do with it. 0 people in 3 months. We had 0, 0, and 0 for 3 months. And last year we had millions of people pouring in from all countries, from jails, from drug addicts, gang members, drug dealers by the thousands and thousands. 11,888 murderers, half of whom committed more than one murder. They flowed into our country, and for the last 3 months we had none. And I didn't remember when Joe Biden used to always go, I need legislation. I had no legislation. I just said we're closing the borders, and the whole world understood it because they respect your country again. They really respect this country again. They didn't respect it. When he said it, it didn't mean anything. But now they know it meant a lot. And Mexico does what we tell them to do, and Canada does what we tell them to do, because we had the 2 borders. We have the northern border, the southern border, and they were both horrible. But now it's some people say it's a miracle. Well, what Frank has done with Social Security also is something very special. But what we're doing with crime, which will be your next question, I guess, that's because everyone's they're afraid. Half of the people here, maybe all of the people here, most of you live in D.C., you are petrified to go out, and you're liberal, and if you're liberal, you can have...
What are you saying? Who the fuck? You're all in here, you're so scared. Black teenagers left and right. They're going to jump you, they're going to beat you, they're going to beat you like big balls, like they beat big balls and his balls. I know it. You know it. We all know it. You're terrified. By the way, the question was, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are lying about you cutting Social Security and Medicaid. Why? Which is not even a question. That's where we're at. That's what he's talking. That's what he's answering, chat.
Have to change your Democrats. You're going to have to change your ways. So we will have crime under control very shortly in D.C., but they're record numbers. And sadly, what I guess the mayor did, but whoever it was, they asked the numbers to be fudged so that it would show less crime than the fact. The fact is, it's worse than it's ever been, and we will have it just like we did at the border, where with borders are totally in great shape right now, the best ever, record-setting shape. We'll have the crime situation solved in D.C. very soon. And we're also going to beautify the city. We have a beautiful city, but you can't have graffiti, and you can't have roads with potholes, and you can't have the medians, the dividers in the roads falling down on the street. We're going to be beautifying the city, making it really beautiful. We're going to be getting the criminals the hell out of here. We don't want the criminals in Washington, D.C.
Mr. President, one on your Putin meeting and then one on D.C. crime. Are you prepared to offer Vladimir Putin access to rare minerals to incentivize him to end the war?
We're going to see what happens with our meeting. We have a big meeting, and it's going to be, I think, very important for Russia, and it's going to be very important for us, and important for us only that we're going to save a lot of lives. Look, we have, we're not paying any money, as you know, to Ukraine. We're supplying equipment. We're being paid 100% plus for that equipment by NATO. And I got NATO up from 2% to 5% of GDP. They now have billions of dollars. NATO's a very rich group of countries, and we make the best military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and they're buying our equipment, and they're paying 100% for the equipment, 100%. In fact, they owe us about $2 billion now. They're going to send a check. Another one was sent recently for $1 billion. So we're not spending any money anymore. Biden gave them $350 billion, got nothing for it. And if you look, and by the way, we also signed a rare earth deal where we get, years of rare earth to get our money back, the money we spent. But what I'm really doing this for is to save thousands of soldiers a week. You have Russian soldiers, you have Ukrainian soldiers, and then you'll have missiles dropped into various cities and towns in Ukraine. And they're losing last week they lost 7,251 people, mostly soldiers, Russian and Ukrainian soldiers. I'm doing it for that reason. We have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good meeting, but the more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens. And I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace. We'll see if they can get along. And if they can, it'll be great. I've solved 6 wars in the last 6 months, a little more than 6 months now. And I'm very proud of it. I thought the easiest one would be this one. It's actually the most difficult. We had one war raging, as you know, for 37 years. One in the Congo with Rwanda was raging for 31 years. We solved 6 of them, made peace, not just solved them, we made peace. If you look at Pakistan and India, planes were being knocked out of the air. 6 or 7 planes came down. They were ready to go, maybe nuclear, we solved that. I thought this would be maybe an easier one. It never made sense, this war. It would have never happened when I was president. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But millions of people have been killed. And I'm there for one reason, to see if I can solve. This was Biden's war. This isn't my war. I want to see if I can stop the killing. Yeah.
Rare earths, do you plan to offer him access to that at all?
We have great rare earth. We made that as payment for all of the money that we've spent so foolishly in Ukraine. We've spent $350 billion. Now, Europe spent $1 billion. That's a lot of money. They spent $100 billion. That's a lot of money. But we shouldn't be spending a lot more money than them, and they understand that. And I think that's maybe why we're not spending money anymore. We're not spending any money. They're paying us for everything. So people are shocked when they hear it. They don't even understand. They don't even write about it. But we're not spending money, but we are spending a lot of time trying to get the war solved. If we can get the war solved, we'll be very happy. As far as rare earth, that's very unimportant relative. I'm trying to save lives.
And on DC crime, sir, on DC crime.
Do you have a message for the Democrat lawmakers like Nancy Pelosi or media who are saying, after living here for many years, that there is no crime and you're trying to start a new news cycle?
It's another reason why the Democrats lost the election in a landslide. They lie. It's just lie. Look, the crime is very bad. I think they'd be much better off saying, we want to.
It's so funny that right after he just spent 5 minutes monologuing about how he stopped so many wars single-handedly, that there are wars you've never even heard of that he has stopped. In his mind, he started wars just to stop them. That's the kind of guy he is. That's how much he loves peace. He turns around and is like, Democrats are lying. He's just that good, man.
Help President Trump with the crime because it's an epidemic. It's a tragic situation. It's the worst it's ever been. And we want to help President Trump with the crime, as opposed to, he's a dictator. He's a dictator. People are so happy to see our military going into D.C. and getting these thugs out. As you know, we arrested a lot of people yesterday. We arrested a lot of people today. We're getting people that have arrest records that you wouldn't believe. 28 arrests, 15 arrests, brutal, brutal people. And we're going to have to do something about this cashless bail, because people shoot somebody, they kill somebody, and they're out on the street in less than an hour.
That is not correct, man. What the is he saying? No, man, that's not how this shit works. People are so stupid. I'm done. I'm done. I can't believe it, bro. He literally is saying you shoot someone, and then because of no cash bail, the judge just looks at a guy who is literally a risk, an ongoing risk to other people. He shot someone, right? And he goes, oh, well, I guess you can go free because otherwise, in normal circumstances, we just have like a really high bail that you wouldn't be able to pay for, and that's how I'd keep you in. That's not how it works. Judges literally have leniency over like whether or not someone is a risk to others. And there's no bail process. There's no financial incentive. It just simply means rich people can't get away with doing crimes and then having freedom, whereas poor people get trapped. That's it. No cash bail doesn't mean people go free, man. What the Yeah. It has always been and always will be up to the judge's discretion. And in this circumstance, the judge can be lenient and allow someone to leave for minor crimes, or not, understandably, not let anybody go if they killed someone. If they've been charged with murder, no judge is going to be like, well, we don't have a bail system, so I guess you can leave now. You're so stupid.
Now, that's when it's all started in New York, in Chicago, Los Angeles. You take a look. If we didn't go to Los Angeles to help this incompetent governor and a mayor that doesn't know what the hell she's doing, if we didn't go to Los Angeles, you wouldn't have a big part of it burned down. The other part of it would have burned down too. You would have not had, I don't think you would have been able to have the Olympics. We have the Olympics. I have a lot at stake with that because I'm the one that got the Olympics. I got it in my first term, and I was saddened because I got it for what would be my third term, okay, which turned out to be second term. And the Olympics, it's a great honor, but I felt badly because I said I won't be president when the Olympics came. Well, through circumstance, I am president. I want to make sure the Olympics is great, the World Cup is great, and the 250, maybe the most important of all, is the 250-year celebration is great. So what's happening is we will work very hard. You would not have had.
You are listening live to President Trump taking questions from reporters there in the Oval Office. Nancy Chen takes over next, listening in on all of those headlines on CBS News 24/7.
Houses that burned down, where, by the way, the governor ought to focus on getting their permits. You know, the federal permits are given. Those are the hard ones, and they were given a long time ago. People can't rebuild their house because they can't get permits from the state and the city. And they ought to focus on that because it's very upsetting. I went there right after the fires. I walked the streets and I met a lot of great people that want to rebuild their homes. We took care of it from the federal standpoint, but they're not taking care of it from the city standpoint, the mayor and the governor. They're not getting their permits. They can't build their houses.
Mr. President, on DC crime.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you. Do you think this summit and the incentives for peace you are putting on the table could end up rewarding Putin for his invasion of Ukraine? And what kind of signal do you think that could potentially send to other aggressors?
No.
Oh my God. This is the one place where, like, that line of questioning is so stupid. Oh, if you stop the genocide, are you rewarding Hamas? If you engage in a ceasefire, are you rewarding Putin? Stop with this idiotic line of questioning, man. And I know the person that asked that question is a liberal. Like, the only contentious line of questioning should not be literally outflanking Trump from the right. God damn, dude. I hate that, like, the one opportunity the liberal journalists have in there to ask like a decent, maybe even adversarial question. And it's like, well, don't you think you're rewarding Putin if you were to implement a ceasefire negotiation? It's like, what are you saying?
I don't think it's a reward. I think that what we have is a situation that should never have started, should have never started. It didn't start under me, and for 4 years it wasn't even discussed. And I could see it was going to happen.
Like the best question to ask, again, there's many questions that should be asked to Donald Trump about what comes next. But those questions should be around like, what are the concessions that you are seeking to get out of Putin? What do you think is the most equitable solution for Ukraine's future? Do you believe in Ukrainian sovereignty in this process? Like, there are a million questions you could ask, none of which is, why do you think you should do a ceasefire at a time when Russia is winning? Why don't you think you're rewarding Russia? It's like, no, man, he's rewarding Russia. Putin is rewarding Russia by just continuing to pummel Eastern Ukrainian positions. You're an idiot.
After I left, I could see what was happening. Everything that we did was wrong. Everything that was done was wrong. Everybody's to blame. Putin's to blame. They're all to blame. This is a war that would have never happened.
The other question on LA, Mr. President, earlier today, the Washington, D.C. police chief issued an executive order allowing metropolitan police officers conducting traffic stops to notify federal immigration and customs enforcement about undocumented immigrants that they encounter. Yet the city has a long-standing pro-immigration policy, including allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections,
which is ridiculous,
and limiting cooperation with federal immigration agencies.
Right.
Did your administration pressure the D.C. police chief to review and repeal these policies, and will you require other cities to roll back similar policies to avoid possible federal takeover of local law enforcement?
So what you're saying is that it was a very positive thing. When they stop people, they find they're illegal, they report them, they give them to us, etc. That's a very positive thing. I have heard that. It just happened. That's a great step. That's a great step if they're doing that. Yeah, I think that's going to happen all over the country. We want to stop crime. I think if the Democrats aren't strong on this issue, they won't be able to do it. I think this is a bigger issue than all of the other ridiculous things that they like open borders. Well, open borders is bad. Open borders has caused a lot of this problem, allowing millions and millions. I think 24 million people were allowed to come into our country. Many of these people from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions. This was the Biden policy. And I don't believe it was him. He was never there before. It was the people that encircled this very beautiful desk, the Resolute desk, radical left lunatics who were smart, but radical left. And I'm very happy to hear what you just said, because I've heard that.
And Mr. President, on LA, if I may, the mother of a 15-year-old California boy who was briefly detained at gunpoint in a case of mistaken identity. The LAUSD superintendent says that surveillance video shows armed agents wearing police and border patrol insignia. Given the National Guard, the Border Control, ICE agents, they're not trained in local policing. What specific steps are you taking to ensure that young people are not put in harm's way?
Fucking finally a good question. Holy shit. Which, by the way, insane situation. Wow. 16 minutes in, we got one real question, bro. That's crazy. 16 minutes in. This is the bare minimum. This is the basic function of journalism, dude. Wait, did this guy, good question from the guy who said illegals are voting. Wait, he said that first?
These types of operations.
Yeah, what they are trained in is common sense, and they're very tough people. And they have great common sense, and they are highly trained. I heard the mayor of LA was saying, oh, they're not trained this way. I heard this character from, where was he from? They talk about him as a candidate. He's got no chance. The governor of Maryland, I watched him this morning saying that the governor of Maryland, yeah, they say maybe he'll be a president. He's not presidential timber at all. But I heard him today talking about how the National Guard or the military is not trained in police, but they're trained in common sense, and they're trained in not allowing people to burn down buildings and bomb buildings and shoot people and all of the things. They've done a great job. Again, if we didn't send them, and very importantly, if we didn't send them into Los Angeles, Los Angeles, the rest of Los Angeles would have been burned down to the ground. When you look at Minnesota, Minneapolis, I sent them into Minneapolis because the governor wouldn't make the call. If I didn't do that, you wouldn't have a Minneapolis. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be existent today. You remember the famous scene burning over the CNN anchor's shoulder? He said, everything seems to be very peaceful. And behind him, the whole city's burning down. So you had the whack job governor who ran for vice president and made a fool out of himself. You would have had, I saved that city. I'll tell you, I saved that city. So the bottom line is these are very tough people that are trained in a thing called common sense, and they're also trained in doing what we're talking about right now. And you watch crime stop, but you wouldn't have Los Angeles. It wouldn't be existent today. We would have had to cancel the Olympics if I let that go on.
Mr. President, are you concerned at all, Mr. President? Will you?
This is so funny, man. I can't tell if he's just like lying or he genuinely is hallucinating. Not that it matters because it's fake, but I live here, man. And I've been to the protests. He literally federalized the National Guard for no reason, sent the Marines in for no reason. They didn't do dick. It was mostly the local police that was just like brutalizing the protesters and moving them away from federal law enforcement because the federal law enforcement was like actively trying to open fire on said protesters. The notion that if they weren't there that the city would burn down is so stupid. They didn't do shit. They just sat there. Like, I don't think it's good that most of the things that are coming out of the president's mouth are just like not true. Like, you barely saw any of the protests too. No, he wasn't talking about, when he said fire, he was talking about the fires. He was saying that like they lit LA on fire, not the wildfires. He was claiming that the 5 Waymos that were burned were actually burning the entire city, if not the state, to the ground. Yeah, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the Waymos, bro. It's just like, I don't know what to, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, everything he's saying is wrong. Not only do I live here, but I was there. The idea that like LA was on fire is so crazy. And there isn't even enough like footage to prove this. Like, normally the media will constantly recirculate the same images over and over again. This time it was such a small protest overall. Like, it wasn't a small protest necessarily, but it was like so specific in where the protest was taking place. Like, it was so localized that like there wasn't even enough like imagery that you could point to claim that LA was on fire. It was just the 3 burning Waymos. That's it. And yet Donald Trump still acts as though that was the case. That like the entirety of LA was on fire, and he bravely sent the brave Marines to go and like shoot the protesters, I guess. And only then was he able to stop these incredibly dangerous protesters that were about to burn the entire city on fire. Meanwhile, we were there. We were getting shot at. It was awful when you were like around the cops. And then a couple blocks over, we went to Little Tokyo, and we got ice cream. What do you mean the entire city's on fire? What the are you talking about? But it just sucks because it's just so, like, it's just so fake. Everything is fake. Everything he's saying is a lie.
You pressure Israel to allow journalists into Gaza to cover the humanitarian efforts the U.S. is pursuing, and
I'd like to see that happen, Jim.
Would you pressure?
I would like to see it happen. I would be very fine with journalists going in. It's a very dangerous position to be in, as you know, if you're a journalist. But I would like to see it.
And on tariffs, Brazil, Mexico, and Latin America are getting closer to China, and they say it's partly because of the tariffs you're imposing those countries. Are you concerned?
You literally walk past the 3 Waymos? Yeah, I know. It was nothing. It was inconsequential. Right, like a couple feet away from the burning Waymos were the cops beating the out of tax-paying citizens with gear that they purchased with the same taxes those tax-paying citizens were paying for. They were spraying chemical weapons on tax-paying American citizens exercising their First Amendment rights. Who gives a That's like entirely unacceptable. That's way worse than the Waymo shit. And 3 Waymos in one of the largest cities is not the city on fire. It's the same shit with like Portland. People literally think Portland just like burned to the ground, dude. People think like, oh man, BLM protests like Seattle burned to the ground. It's like, no, that didn't happen. That's what he was talking about with Minneapolis. It's just like, I don't know. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? What do you do with that? What do you do with that when the president is just lying and no one is going, I don't think that's what happened. Like every part of that story is a lie. City didn't burn down. Donald Trump didn't do anything other than send the Marines there, but the Marines didn't do shit. He just hallucinated an entirely alternative reality.
Them getting closer to China?
No, not at all. I'm not concerned at all. They can do what they want. None of them are doing very well. And what we're doing in terms of economics, we're blowing everyone away, including China. We're doing better than any other country in the world right now. Brazil has been a horrible trading partner in terms of tariffs. As you know, they charge us tremendous tariffs, far, far more than we were charging them. We weren't charging anything, essentially. And Brazil has some very bad laws.
What? What's the deal with you and Bad Empanada? Because you watch his vids on stream, but he's always ripping on you. I'm kind of new to the community and want to know what the deal is. And if you're against him, no, I'm not against Bad Empanada. Why are you still in the U.S. then? I don't know, because I'm stubborn. I have loved ones that live here. I want to improve this country. Or, where am I supposed to go? He hasn't said shit about you in a while. No, he got mad at the GQ profile and said that I will never threaten power. And that's the only reason why I get like glowing magazine profiles. Because I'll never say something that will get me in trouble, or at least like, well, he didn't frame it as that.
Happening where they took a president and they put him in jail, or they're trying to jail him. And I happen to know the man, and I will tell you, I'm pretty good at people. I think he's an honest man. I think what they've done, this is this is really a political execution that they're trying to do with Bolsonaro. I think that's terrible. But they also treated us very badly as trading partners for many, many years. One of the worst countries on earth for that. They charged tremendous tariffs, and they made it very difficult to do anything. So now they're being charged 50% tariffs, and they're not happy, but that's the way it goes.
Mr. President, on DC crime, sir, on DC crime, are you concerned at all that some federal officers that are helping DC police might be being pulled away from other high priority assignments?
Like what? Like what?
Terrorism.
Like what? What could the federal agents be doing? What could they be tasked with? We got two speeds. We don't care about pedophilia and sex trafficking. We care about migrants. They need to be working on going to the farms and arresting migrants. What terrorism? The real terrorism is seeing salsa hips walking down the street in broad daylight. That's the real terror.
Oh, really? Terrorism? They'll stop terrorism as part of what they're doing right now. No.
See? I'm telling you. He just straight up said, oh, terrorism. Yeah, they're stopping terrorism by apprehending random people at courthouses. BA's statement wasn't even really directed at you. He just took a drive-by. No, I know. Hasan is a mainstream media darling precisely because he's not a threat to power and would never say anything that would compromise his ability to be a mainstream celebrity, which is such a funny thing to say because he knows how insane my haters are. He's done videos on it. And no, the only reason why it's not compromising my ability to be a mainstream celebrity is because attitudes are shifting. That's it. I smell envy. No, he's just farming. He says dumb shit all the time. It doesn't really matter. But it's really funny that he wants so badly by doing nothing to the extent that he has a new profile in big magazines every week while H3 are talking about moving to Kick and Rumble. Yeah, I think he was just trying to shit on Ethan. Yeah, so ironic when you said that America deserved 9/11 and that Hamas is better than Israel. Two of the most compromising statements one can say. Yeah, what can I say that would be appropriate by his standards? Like, I know what he wants. I know what he'll say. But it's so funny, like, Easy to chirp from Argentina? No, I don't think it's easy to chirp from Argentina. I found out that it's actually harder to chirp from Argentina. He just seemingly has been able to evade any sort of like legal scrutiny somehow. I don't know why. That's the thing I don't understand. Like, this has gotten less government scrutiny than I have, and I'm in America where we have free speech, supposedly free speech. So I don't know how he is able to avoid all of that. So to say that, like, you know, I'm experiencing no repercussions is so funny. But like I said, I think he was just like trying to shit on. He was just trying to shit on Ethan, I think, more so. Or maybe I'm CIA. Not having an Argentinian audience? Oh, that could be it. That makes sense. No, it's the fact that you are not allowed to say Hamas is right after October 7. Even if I may or may not understand why you can't say that, Hamas is better than Israel is a compromise law. No matter what way you put it, you still do thread a certain line. You crave normalcy, which is a difference in methods in general if one is charitable. This is the same guy who was yelling at me because he said I was being Orientalist by saying WeHo is the Mecca for gay people, is gay Mecca. The fuck do you mean, bro? Yeah, Hamas is better than Israel is what do you mean? That's a compromised position. What are you talking about? That's just objective reality. Yes. What kind of conversation are we having here? How is that in any way, shape, or form a compromised position? What do you mean? Also, please. Anyway, you basically said that in that article. Oh, in GQ, yeah. Let's continue with this shit.
The soldiers that we have, first of all, we have plenty of them, long beyond what that you have here. We're just using a very small force. You know, in Washington, D.C., they have thousands of police. They have a lot of police. But the police weren't allowed to do their job. We have a lot of great ones. And you have some that weren't so good, to be honest, but they weren't allowed to do their job. But now they are allowed to do their job. And essentially it's only 2 days, but you look at the numbers already, they're dropping. And no, they're not being pulled off for anything.
Mr. President, as you know, there were some very concerning reports about crime statistics. Police are manipulating crime data to downplay crime in D.C. Will the administration release its own crime statistics to counter their misinformation? And will those individuals who are intentionally misrepresenting crime data and fudging the books, like you said, be penalized for endangering the public?
They are under investigation.
Why didn't you say I voted for Hamas even more times than I voted for Biden? No, I literally said Hamas is worse than Israel. Israel does not have hostages like Hamas. So, what planet are you living on? Israel literally has 10,000 plus Palestinians held hostage in straight up most circumstances, maybe not with the Israeli starvation campaign that was implemented in the Gaza Strip, but like in the past, worse conditions than like the way Hamas was able to keep the Israeli hostages. That's not even a lie. That's not even a joke. Israel has all the money and all of the goddamn food. They could treat the hostages far better. Israel's 10,000 of them. And not only that, but also Israel literally picked up an additional like 2,000 plus Palestinian hostages since October 7. Yeah, look at this. Israel's a far greater evil than Hamas. They've done 2 October 7s against the entire Palestinian population every single week for the past 60 months. A belligerent occupier backed by the most powerful country on earth. Israel's far worse than Hamas. It has done thousands of October 7s with airstrikes, ground invasion, and mass starvation for 19 months. Anyone who refuses to recognize this fact simply doesn't believe Palestinians are human. There's no comparison between Israel and Hamas. One is a militant resistance comprised of orphan soldiers born into a 77-year occupation. The other is an ethno-religious supremacist apartheid state with nukes doing a genocide backed by the USA. Like, what are you talking about? Who do you know in American politics that has any platform whatsoever that unironically says this? But which is the truth, by the way. It's so sad because nothing I'm saying is like an exaggeration. It's just the truth. But who the do you know in American politics that dares to entertain the truth? She is a what? She is not a plant that Trump has placed. One female reporter that Trump constantly calls on is not a plant. She is a human. Good one, dude. Nice one, Chatter. Sorry, lesser evil is what I meant to say is a compromise, although you understand because it suggests an equivalence. Also, my Orientalism takes because literally, when have you ever heard an Arab or Muslim, other than maybe Iranian or a Turk, use Mecca as a metaphor to anything? It's such a British documentary exoticism, which is within Orientalism in its otherizing because it's born out of it. Or maybe for someone, dog, you literally are otherizing Iranians and Turks as somehow different versions of Islam than the Arab version of Islam. What the is wrong with you? You're like, listen, you're fake, you're phony. You can't, yeah, because I hate them. Okay, suck my dick. Anyway, and as far as this goes, like, what do you want? This is it. This is the truth. Israel is a belligerent occupier. Israel as a belligerent occupier does not have a right to defend itself by bombing Gaza. Palestinians, on the other hand, have a legal right to defend themselves against Israel's genocide. Since the media tide is shifting after 19 months, ask yourself why no one ever mentions this. That's how you know I'm 100% correct, by the way, because the Zionist Hasbara Brigade goes, how many buzzwords can you fit in one post? What a piece of shit. Yeah, no answer. You got nothing. You can't say shit. So you got to go, it's buzzwords. It's buzzwords. You are saying genocide. It's a buzzword. Anti-Semite. Anti-Semite. Why you not love Israel? I'm going to retweet this again. I really cooked on this. That one was the one that like really pissed people off when it first came out. The ADL was up my ass for that objectively correct take. Also, the other thing is, like I've always said, the Biden, I would vote for Hamas over Biden is so funny because I did literally say that. I said that I'm a lesser evil voter and Hamas is the lesser evil between all of the parties involved. If there was a Democratic election, I would vote for the lesser evil because I believe in harm reduction. So there's that part too. So I have also, any way you have invented, any way you could imagine me accurately in reflecting the events that have unfolded over the course of the past 22 months and even far beyond that, I have done so. Yeah, honestly, you should be taking a minute break from the stream to tweet that you love Israel. Like right now, tweet you love Israel. Say you love Israel, please. Because remember, this is what I was going to say, by the way. Yeah, that's the default position. This is fun. This guy is my favorite guy on Twitter. He blocked me. Armand Domaluski, co-founder of Yimbies for Harris, goes, honestly, it's pretty gross that a guy, this guy is supposed to be a liberal, by the way, okay? Supposedly liberal guy. Donald Trump is like wrecking the country, okay? Donald Trump is, and his administration has detained myself for my political perspective that is supposed to be in line with his worldview, like a lot closer to his ostensible worldview than, you know, any number of different right-wingers that are actively talking about how they should, you know, how he should be hunted and killed for sport, you know? And yet here he is. Honestly, it's pretty gross that a guy who said the U.S. deserved 9/11 routinely gets glowing press coverage because he's hot, I guess. He still watches your stream, by the way, as far as I know. Yeah, it's just odd. It's just odd for a liberal to get this ass mad about, once again, another progressive socialist content creator getting looks from mainstream press. And it's not even, that dude blocked me and I've never tweeted at him or mentioned or ever followed him. Yeah. But it's also weird. It's also weird for him to get this ass mad, but not only this ass mad, but also mad in this direction. Because he's not like, wow, this guy is a NIMBY. You know, this guy, I can't believe GQ magazine would offer glowing coverage to a guy who insert thing he has a disagreement with me over. He's literally saying, he's using the Steven Crowder technique to be like, this guy said U.S. deserved 9/11, which, by the way, Taylor Lorenz goes, he said correctly that 9/11 was a direct result of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. This is just an objectively correct fact that no serious person should dispute, especially given what we know about that era. Bullshit. He said literally, America deserved 9/11. Immediately goes, I don't agree. I don't care about the context. I don't care about the nuance. He said America deserved 9/11, and I'm crying. Okay? I'm crying about it. That is a moral judgment of the 3,000 plus people who were murdered that day. It's not bullshit. Watch back the clip and use listening comprehension. You want to talk about innocent people being murdered, then you have to look at both sides. The more you know about what the U.S. has done in the Middle East, the more you understand why many believe the U.S., in air quotes, deserved 9/11. If you refuse to acknowledge the asymmetry in deaths between the innocent people killed in the U.S. on 9/11 versus the innocent people U.S. slaughtered in the Middle East for decades, then you're just not a serious person. Even families of the people killed in 9/11 acknowledge this reality. The difference is I would never say that the people of Iraq deserve the Iraq War. Hasan never said anything about the people of Iraq, nor did he say anything about the people of America. Iraq is also not an imperialist global superpower, nor was Iraq tied to 9/11. Again, this guy, and I repeat, is supposed to be a liberal. So why is he behaving like this? Because a lot of people that say they're a liberal have the exact same right-wing perspective when it comes to American foreign policy. And they despise people like myself for routinely railing against it.
Out of anything,
I watched a really good video on this, as a matter of fact, because a lot of people say, a lot of people misunderstand when I say Democrats and Republicans are aligned on a lot of very important issues that pertain to our day-to-day existence here in the United States of America, and also a lot of issues that pertain to America's, global impact. Okay? And I think this guy does a very good job of basically breaking down that exact sentiment. I don't know who this guy is. The woke bloke, he says, it's about the issues you don't even think about. #politics, #leftist, #liberal. I reposted it. He says, dear liberal, Democrats and Republicans are the same. Now, for the record, I almost completely agree with this person. Okay? You watching a video is not a matter of fact. ESL, did you forget about the plugin that auto-blocked all blue checks marks when Elon bought Twitter? Yeah, that plugin blocks me too, technically, because Elon forcibly gave me a blue check mark because I'm a power user on the platform, so I'm cursed with it myself, and there's no way for me to to lose that blue check mark, unfortunately. A lot of your haters don't even seem to care that much about the 9/11 shit. Anyone angry is either performative or misunderstood. Oh, no, it is. It is a totally performative anger. And I'll give you a great example of this. Bill Maher, immediately after 9/11, said, those dudes that did 9/11 were brave. You know what's not brave? Lobbing Hellfire missiles from thousands of miles away at innocent civilians. That's not brave. But those guys literally got in a plane and drove the plane into the towers. That's brave. Nobody ever brings that up when talking about Bill Maher. Why doesn't anybody bring that up when talking about Bill Maher? Because nobody gives a shit. Bill Maher said that after 9/11, like literally the week of 9/11, he said that. He lost his job because of that. Okay? It's been downhill for him ever since, as far as like spicy takes goes. Okay? I've seen people who have made 9/11 jokes but act offended when they want to shit on you. Exactly. It's all fake bullshit. Okay? I will also add one other element to the 9/11. Hasan said, America deserves a 9/11 moment. I'm an American citizen. And one part of this conversation that always seems to get lost is I said, we totally deserved it. As in me, America. Like me, an American citizen. We totally did, dude. That was my follow-up. Okay? And yet, nobody ever seems to think that I am an American when they're talking about this. I wonder why. You see what I mean? Because every single person that says Hasan's analysis here is actually every single person that like intentionally misunderstands what I'm trying to say does not see me as an American citizen, does not see me as one of their neighbors. They see me as an outsider with a dangerous, scary ideology that wants to destroy America. This kind of attitude used to be reflected openly by right-wingers. My entire career, I have heard this from right-wingers. You hate America? Get the f*** out. Oh, you love terrorism? Get the f*** out. Now I hear from liberals as well. This is a major problem. I don't think the average liberal has this kind of attitude. I don't think so. I don't think that the average liberal that you see, the average normie liberal that you see in the wild has this kind of attitude. I don't think they feel this way at all. But a lot of the commentators do. And those commentators online get their notes from the Democratic Party. So I feel like over the course of the past couple of decades, I think the Democratic Party, like the politicians, the apparatus, and their communications has gotten more right-wing, has gotten more racist, especially as it pertains to defending foreign policy. Okay? Anyway, dear liberals, Democrats and Republicans are the same.
That leftists say, this is the one that pisses off liberals the most, because it just seems so unfair, right?
There are objective differences between Democrats and Republicans that go beyond the red and the blue. And I will credit that to you. If we had a Kamala Harris presidency right now, we would not be trying to tariff our allies. We would not be trying to extort corporations and universities. We would not have passed the big, beautiful bill. We would have a president that is nominally pro-choice. And you know what? More than anything in your personal life, at minimum, you would feel more comfortable. And there are other issues that I will grant you that Democrats and Republicans have differences on. These are objective truths. But here are some additional objective truths. There are...
Again, something that I talk about all the time, okay? Something that I talk about all the time. There are Democrats, there are major differences between the Democratic Party and the way that the Republican Party operate. It's true, objectively. Anyone that says there aren't serious policy differences when it comes to like domestic policy on the issues that he brought forth, okay? Anyone that says there is no difference between these two elements is wrong. It's not something that I've ever advocated for. There are instances where Democrats are completely unable to push back against the Republicans and allow the Republicans to dominate the space. But like ultimately, in theory, there are ideological differences between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. However, there are very important points that pertain to everyday American existence where the Democrats and Republicans are completely aligned with one another, and we don't even think about those things because we just take it for granted as the norm. And I think he's going to describe it, okay?
There are huge areas of our political life that Democrats and Republicans have reached consensus on, and you don't even think about. Consider the economy. Democrats and Republicans agree that we are going to have a free market capitalistic economy. And while we'll fight over what the social safety net should look like, with Democrats wanting subsistence level and Republicans wanting starvation, ultimately at the end of the day, every single problem is going to start with a free market solution, which is how we approach
neoliberalism. What he's describing is the uniparty sentiment on market solutions, the public-private partnership. Democrats and Republicans both believe that, okay? There is no alternative vision in the Democratic Party. And as a matter of fact, ones who suggest an alternative vision in the Democratic Party are cast aside as outsiders, routinely purged from the ranks, the Bernie Sanders of the world, right? Either if you are this type of person, if you say, no, we need socialization, we need a higher degree of socialization, which doesn't automatically even mean you are a socialist. You could be a social democrat. We need market regulation. We need higher degrees of socialization in public services that need to be controlled by the government. If you were to make that argument as a social democrat who is still a goddamn capitalist, okay, you are literally cast aside or co-opted by the party apparatus to stop pushing on these agendas, to stop pushing on these issues. That's just the truth. The Democratic Party does not give you room to breathe and room to operate and allow you to make any sort of real gain towards socialization because the consensus has been established. The only solution to ongoing problems that Americans are facing have to be solved with a public-private partnership. Okay?
Approach healthcare, another huge area of our lives. Harry Sisson, the future of the liberal Democratic Party, says that it is unrealistic for Democrats to pursue universal healthcare. The kid's like 20 years old. What a vision. And Republicans agree with him, just like they agree with Democrats on the military. We are going to spend almost $1 trillion per year on a military that we do not use to fight wars and instead use to prop up a genocidal state, something that Democrats and Republicans also agree on. Because there are some things that just rise above partisan discourse, right? Like our national story. This country was founded upon justice, liberty, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness.
I do read a lot of what the Democrats say as like, we need to find consensus as this. They just want people to shut the up. They want the Republicans to be in line and to recognize that they are also on board with a lot of the same shit, and that, we should have reasonable discussion, reasonable discourse on how many trans people should be eradicated from public life, how many immigrants should be purged. We're both on board with immigrants being purged, mind you. Like, it's gonna happen. There is no alternative vision here. We're not saying the counterbalance on the Democrat side is not amnesty, conditional amnesty. The counterbalance on the Democrat side is, we're going to kick out immigrants too, because we also believe that they're criminal rapists, but like, we want 30% less immigrants to be kicked out. You know what I mean? Whereas the Republicans are like, we got to kick every brown person out, not just the immigrants, but also like American citizens across the board. So like, that's not a real, that a consensus has been established on first principles, a consensus that unfortunately revolves around a complete falsehood. The idea, the notion that like immigrants constitute a national security threat, that is ridiculous. That is the reason why things consistently keep getting worse. If you are a liberal and if you're a Democrat voter and you're wondering how the do the goddamn Republicans keep winning elections over and over again, why can't people see how bad they are? Understand that on the other side of that coin, the coin that you consistently vote for, the side that you consistently vote for is actively propping up their position, the Republican, the opposition's framework, as the normal framework when it is not established from a shared reality that we experience and instead is pure vitriolic hysteria. It's just made up. And when Democrats don't counter message against that, when they don't actively fight against those first principles that it is that Republican white nativist anti-immigrant agenda making comes from, they lose. In the simplest terms, as the Chapo boys always say, like, why would you purchase the diet soda when you can get the full strength soda that's right there? This was a major problem with Kamala Harris. This isn't to say don't vote for the Democrats. I'm not saying that, okay? Because like people immediately get mad. They go, realistically, who else am I supposed to vote for if not the Democrats? I never said don't vote for the Democrats, chatter. I said hold them to account, wield them like a weapon. Make sure that if you have, like, you should always have a policy-first approach. A lot of people personally believe it's just team sports. It's not. It's not team sports. It's about the policies, right? So we have to literally hold their feet to the fire. If they won't do this out of the kindness of their hearts, which they will never do, right? Because they are so echo chambered, they're so tunneled in, they're in their little bubbles where the only people that they talk to are lobbyists and incredibly wealthy people. We have to make ourselves undeniable. We have to make ourselves unavoidable. We have to keep pushing. Okay? That's why these organizations that exist outside of the duopoly framework, like the DSA, PSL, and labor unions, are so important. That's why I always push for that. That's why I always push for protest. Not just protest against the Republicans, which of course you also have to keep doing, but even protest against the Democrats as well. Okay? We have to force them to do the right thing. We have to force them, unfortunately, to behave like a real anti-fascist, anti-Republican party. And it's clear that they won't do it because, as this guy correctly points to, is something I say all the time. This is a perfect summary of the way I describe events. There's consensus on a lot of issues that there shouldn't be consensus on.
And leftists look at all of this and they think it's bullshit, but they also add it all up, and it's about 80% of our political life. Leaving around 20% is the area of acceptable debate between the parties. So if I told you that something was 80% the same as another thing, would you say that they're actually the same? Probably not. But you could get away with saying they're basically the same. I think out of anything that leftists say, this is the one that pisses off liberals the most, because it just seems so unfair, right? There are objective differences between Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah. That's it. Like nobody in here, unless they're just like utterly delusional, thinks that there aren't any differences whatsoever between the Republicans and the Democrats. Like they are one and the same. I do not believe this. I say they have incredible similarities on issues that pertain to everyday existence that up your life in a very meaningful fashion. And if they were to actually focus on those differences, or the areas where there is consensus when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to Israel, when it comes to endless amounts of money going into the military so we can go and like kill people overseas, when it comes to a public-private partnership being the only solution to these issues, whether it be housing, whether it be healthcare, whether it be college, these are all genuine problems that pertain to your everyday existence that the Democrats and the Republicans actually are in agreement on. The disagreements that they have are basically like, how do we get there? Is it 100% of migrants that need to be off and forcibly excised as an aberration, removed from American society? Or is it like 50% of the migrants? Like, that's not a real disagreement, okay? That's not. This is why team sports, it doesn't even make sense, because when teams are going up against one another, they're not playing for the same team, okay? They're playing against one another. But as he correctly pointed to, the 80-20, 80% of the goals that the Democrats are scoring are own goals. Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.